That's awesome.
That's so special.
Welcome back, everybody. Ben, guys, just so you know, those of you that were still talking and just joined us, we just got to witness Ben's first wave. So we're making moments happen tonight. All right. Well, I hope you guys appreciated those conversations. I know for me, it's super beneficial to talk with that, to talk about that topic and where we are and where we can get better. So the next topic that we're going to talk about is avoid risky substances. And we call it avoid, but you could put avoid / limit on some. But what I want to do here is I just want to kind of take us through a conversation. Now, needless to say, if you're drinking a glass of wine, you don't have to run and put it away or anything like that. But what I want everybody to understand is just let's have a conversation about it and figure out how we can better support each other and challenge ourselves to be better in this area, keeping in mind that it's personal. When we talk about things like tobacco and alcohol and or drugs or certain things like that, it's a very personal thing, and it's a choice that we all have to make for ourselves if and when we have an opportunity to do that. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so can everybody see my screen? Can I get a thumbs up if you can see it? How about you, Ben? Can I get a thumbs up too? Can we get a first? All right. Mom will help him out on that one. All right. So this is why I think we have a little bit less attendance today. No, I'm kidding. But when we think about avoiding risky substances, this is always an area. And for those of you that don't know me too well just yet, I've had the opportunity to teach over the last 7 years with University of Delaware students. So it's been such a humbling and an incredible experience. And I always get so excited to talk to them about this area. And so what I want everybody to do is just take a little personal reflection. And keep in mind, we do have a handout posted under week 4 that has some information for you for notes or further use. But before we really dive into, we're going to focus specifically on alcohol and tobacco as the 2 primary drivers of our conversation. But before we do so, I really want to talk about addiction. All right. Now, here's an important thing to understand around addiction is that you can be addicted to anything. All right. So you could be addicted to exercise. You can be addicted to shopping, gambling, tobacco, alcohol, food. We can really be addicted to anything and everything. But here's what we have to understand here. Let me walk you through this graphic. So essentially, let's just start with the fantasizing about a substance or behavior. All right, so this is an example of somebody that has been really thinking about it. So let's take alcohol for this example. Somebody is really fantasizing about it. All they can think about is, oh, I need it, I want it, I seek it. So this could be, during the week, somebody's really just, oh my God, I can't wait to Friday so I can get drunk and forget about my life's challenges or some things I have going on. So first it starts with the fantasizing aspect. Next, it becomes a little bit more of an obsession to where people are going through and they might be starting to really hyper focus on it. So it's like fantasizing is like flirting with it in your mind. Obsessing is kind of taking it to that next level. This is where you might be saying, all right, well, I'm not going to drink now, but let me start making my plans. Let me go through and start to purchase alcohol or whatever it might be. So it takes it to that next level. Then the next phase of the addiction cycle is you use it or you do it. And so this example is both, substance abuse, but also a compulsive behavior like alcohol for some folks is you do it. It's a Friday night and this person goes to happy hour, and then before they know it, they have been going through and, they've drank 6, 7, 8 plus drinks, let's say. So they go through and they do it. And they start to lose control. Not only do they do it, but they oftentimes overdo it. And this is in line with sometimes what takes an action into an addiction is the fact that it goes too far. And so you start to experience a loss of control. This is something to where you might not be really in control of your decisions, and you're making poor decisions. You're kind of just, you're not steering the wheel, so to speak. This could be you in your cabinet, and you only planned on eating 3 Oreos, and now 4 sleeves are gone. And you now are saying, what the heck happened to my Oreos? Or I bought a 12-pack for the week, and it's gone. All right. Now, this is where it goes a little bit further. And then on the flip side is after the act is over, oftentimes you feel a lot of mental frustration and conflict, depression, shame, guilt over that behavior. I can't believe I did that. Why did I eat them? Why did I buy them? Why did I drink that? Why was I there for so long doing that? How come I didn't know to stop at 1 or 2? All right, so we kind of see where we're building, and then all of a sudden we say to ourselves, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to eat the Oreos. I'm not going to eat the junk food. I'm not going to drink the beer. I'm not going to smoke the cigarette. And then we stop, which is the cessation of use. We stop doing the activity or behavior. Over time goes, and then all of a sudden, you know, internal frustration, you start fantasizing, you obsess, you act, you feel shame, guilt, mental, and see this here. And I know we've all experienced this in our own life. I know that there's times that I can look at specific instances and say, I've done every single one of these steps, and sometimes repeatedly for the same behaviors. But I just wanted to really kind of put that out there prior to talking about our topics, which are alcohol and tobacco. So alcohol, first and foremost, let's just go through some statistics quickly. In America, the way it's marketed and promoted, if you don't consume alcohol, it's almost like, what are you doing? Why aren't you? You should be doing this. This is something that's necessary. This is part of the American way. You eat dinner, you drink a beer. You talk to your girlfriends, you're drinking wine. It's just kind of marketed as this is the necessary part of life. And you can see that in the prevalence. You can see more and more people are consuming, more and more people are consuming, not just socially, but also on their own. You know, people are busier, they're looking for that escape. They're looking for that quick fix to their problem or their bad day. Honey, where's the wine? Okay, like again, if it's one thing, if it's social and you're having a glass of wine and you're enjoying conversation, but if you're sitting there and you're grabbing a bottle and you're drinking it pretty quickly, we have to start to look at that. But nonetheless, binge drinking is going up, but also prevalence of people drinking as well. And very much in our country, if you think about it, I mean, some of the things we expose our children to, back in the day, they used to even market cigarettes during football ads and TV commercials and things like that. They don't do that anymore, but you can't turn on a sporting event without seeing alcohol advertisements. So again, you have to understand where marketing and where money goes, oftentimes behaviors and compulsions may follow after. So some of the standard drinks. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen where it's like a funny thing that you buy somebody and it's like a wine glass that's like a 2-quart wine glass and they're like, it's just one drink. I'm sure you guys have seen that. Or like the big beer and it's like, oh, I only had a beer. Mom, I'll call you out on this one. Back in the day, my mom used to be like, I only have one coffee. And it was literally like a 24-ounce. And I'm like, that's like 4 cups of coffee. Just saying, I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that. That when it comes to alcohol, you have to understand that it has an amount. It's not just how big is your cup. You know, I can't drink this and say, well, I had a margarita. Okay, this holds a pretty good amount of fluid. So obviously I might have had 2 or 3 in that. So needless to say, I know you guys understand the different serving sizes, but it's important to understand that when it says serving size on the back of the bottle, it's something to keep in mind. So if you say to yourself, I'm only going to have 1 drink, just know that that literally means 1 beer. It doesn't mean one Grotto's big beer that's 40 ounces. So again, just kind of more along those lines, and then understanding not only is it the amount of fluid, but obviously it's the strength of the alcohol as well. So if somebody says, okay, I had a glass of alcohol, okay, the question would be, all right, well, what was in it? So, okay, a glass of beer compared to a tall glass of wine or vodka, it's going to have different effects on our body. So when we think about it, it's just important to understand that serving sizes are there. So again, I just want to kind of lay that foundation as we talk about some of the more opportunities for improving in this area. And then in regards to binge drinking, that the technical definition is more than 5 drinks in 2 hours for a male and more than 4 in 2 hours for a woman. So the goal most times with binge drinking is to in fact get drunk. All right. So I don't want to be a buzzkill here, but essentially none of us should really drink alcohol to get drunk. Like that shouldn't be the goal, but nonetheless, it's happening more and more. And it definitely happens with a lot of young adults. I know We were all super young at some point. Some of us are still young, like Isabella, but the rest of us are still young as well, but maybe not as young as her. But it's something that when we look at, we want to be conscious of drinking a lot and drinking a lot fast in a short period of time, just because not only does it have some challenges and some risks, but it certainly can exemplify or can really magnify some of the challenges. And nonetheless, again, if you don't drink alcohol, great. If you drink a little bit, okay, that's fine too, you know, but what we have to understand here is we have to get to a little bit more details around it. So again, who shouldn't drink? I think everybody knows here, I don't want to preach to the choir, but obviously people that aren't legally allowed shouldn't drink. Second, it's anybody that's either trying to get pregnant or preparing to plan a family or actually pregnant themselves. All right, you know, not one of those things that a lot of folks might say, oh, okay, I'll just drink a little bit. Nonetheless, we have to understand that it can have certainly some dramatic effects, things like fetal alcohol syndrome and a lot of other challenges as well. And then obviously we all know this, you don't want to drink and drive, you don't want to do, you know, anything that's going to risk you or anybody else when it comes to consuming alcohol, being under the influence, and then going through and looking at your motor skills and your judgment and a lot of things that change as a result. Another thing is when people are taking over-the-counter medications or even some prescribed medication, something to consider here is that medications and alcohol can certainly have some effects, have some side effects here. So when we think about it, we just have to understand that if we're on any medication, we have to be aware of if this is now mixed with alcohol, what are some potential effects that this is going to cause for me? And then certainly other people with medical conditions as well. For example, things like people that might have a blood thinning condition. You drink alcohol, it's going to further thin your blood, and then that can make you more susceptible to internal bleeding and bleeding out and certain things like that. And then also recovering alcoholics should never consume it, not even a sip. And the reason being is that people that struggle with addiction, like alcoholics, it's something that we have to understand. It's the best decision is to abstain completely. And even people with addictive personalities. I know that I have an addictive personality. When I really want to do something, I really want to do it. So I just have to be conscious of that when making decisions. Okay, so when we go through, again, blood alcohol content, essentially, the reason why I show this chart, I don't want to take everybody back to 8th grade health class or anything, but I want everybody to understand that what happens after your blood alcohol content reaches a certain level, essentially your body starts to say mayday. So think of your body as a boat, all right? And your body is able to stay afloat and do what it needs to do. But essentially what happens is if you start taking on water, your boat's going to start saying mayday. You're going to have some problems. It's the same thing with your body. So if you ever become really drunk or intoxicated, your body's saying, I can't metabolize the alcohol as quickly as you're giving it to me. So it's just something that we have to understand as grown adults. It's a side effect of overconsumption. All right. Now, some of us might drink a glass of wine and say, I want a little bit of that feeling. Okay. Well, if you want a little bit, that's all right. But if you want a lot of it, that's something that you just have to be mindful of some of the risks that come with it. All right. So a few more things on alcohol here that I want to speak to. Alcohol is a known carcinogen. So if some of you aren't familiar with that word, a carcinogen is a cancer-causing compound. So I was going to show you some slides here or some images from the World Health Organization that alcohol is a carcinogen in any amount. And I know Vicki spoke to this early on when we had some questions during our first week. But alcohol is a carcinogen, so it means that it has the ability to initiate cancer cell development as well as the promotion and progression throughout our body. So we just have to understand that any alcohol in any amount is carcinogenic. So it's just important to really reflect on that and know that if you really want to do it and you want to use it, just know that going in. We just have to be consciously aware of the decisions we're making. So, for example, in America, we tell all women to get screened for breast cancer, and then we basically introduce chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. Needless to say, we're not saying that a primary cause for breast cancer is being overweight or obese, drinking alcohol, poor diet and physical inactivity. Nobody wants to talk about that on the flip side, on the front end, all right? We just want you to be a patient, and we want to help you once you're a patient. But I disagree with that approach as a health professional. I want to tell everybody, just like I want to tell you processed meat can cause colorectal cancer. I want to tell you alcohol can cause many forms of cancer, especially things like prostate and breast. So we just have to be conscious of that, all right? It can absolutely affect our mental health. And not only can it affect us when we're doing it, some people either, you kind of flip a switch. You can become a happy user or a angry user. And then the next day, you're kind of going through withdrawal and some side effects and some challenges as a result. So it's important to understand that it can have all kinds of challenges as well.
Can you turn that dryer back on?
And I'm hearing some feedback. I don't know who that is. Let me see here. I'm trying to see who I can make sure it's muted. Who's doing that? Whoever's talking on the background, talking about your laundry, just mute. So, but don't forget to put in the dryer before you mute it, just so we know. All right, guys. So I know I'm a buzzkill literally on this topic, but I just want you to understand that it has a. All right. So when it comes to our alcohol use, it has effects. I'm not saying that I'm never going to consume alcohol in my life, but we have to understand that it does in fact have some real short-term and long-term effects. I went a little quicker through that. Sorry. So you can see basically it affects all areas of our body. All right. So yeah, you might say, I love a glass of wine. It gives me a little mild euphoria. I feel better. Okay, well then over time, if you do it too frequently or in too much, too high amounts, it's going to have some challenges with us. And not to mention, we certainly don't want to have the health effects long-term that are caused from frequent alcohol use. I know I have a personal friend that's father passed away before he should have. And it was due to this. It was due to cancer and cirrhosis. And it was basically functional drinking, essentially, that over time, this is the type of abuse that your body is trying to help you. But over time, the more we stay at it, the less our body's able to help us. All right, so what do we do? Again, so when we think about it, the first thing, first and foremost, is just to be fully aware that alcohol has risks. It is not something that has no risk. It's not something you say, oh, it's not a big deal. Just do it in moderation. All right, and I love a quote that says, everything in moderation except moderation. You can't go through and say that moderation is the answer to everything. It's the easy scapegoat. We've all said it. I know I'm eating cookies, everything in moderation. I know I'm eating fried chicken, everything in moderation, okay? So what I don't want you to do is don't fool yourself. I know I've said it. I'll try not to say it ever again in my life, but we have to understand too that when we think of that, we wouldn't say, well, moderate breast cancer, moderate throat cancer, or mild cirrhosis. All right, we wouldn't say that. We wouldn't ever joke like that. But nonetheless, there's opportunities to really go through and focus on other areas that get you the same effect that you're seeking with the alcohol. And I know when I was younger, I used to do a little social experiment where I would watch people in the bar. So I'd be at the bar with my friends, and you know, it'd be my time to be our designated driver, and I wouldn't have any alcohol, and I would watch people, and I would pay close attention to who is drinking faster than others. And you could tell the people that were doing it. I mean, no joke, when that bottle's to your face every other second, that's not thirst, okay? There's something else going on besides trying to quench your thirst. But there's other things that are there. Oftentimes when you're stressed, figure out, all right, maybe I can go for a walk. Maybe I can go through and do something fun with my family instead of running home and open up a bottle of wine or starting a margarita or whatever it might be. So, you know, there's counseling for people that really feel like they might need a little bit of additional support to talk through some challenges that they might have. But then there's just basics, some basic steps, you know, being more mindful of why you're about to do what you're doing and how you can make some steps in the right direction. And then going through anything from exercise to meditation to social support, like all of us together, we collectively all want to be better versions of us. And to do that, we need support. To do that, we need each other. All right. So let me jump ahead to tobacco. I'm going to take us a little quicker through this. So tobacco is the single greatest thing that any person that currently uses tobacco products should do to help their health, hands down. I mean, it took more than 15,000 studies before the actual medical association and the government started saying, maybe we should tell people that it's harmful. All right, 15,000 studies. It's not a joke. It's not, oh, it took 20 studies. It took 15,000 studies before they said, okay, fine, we'll tell people that smoking kills you. All right, so smoking is a very harmful thing for the people that use it, for people that are exposed to it and breathe it. All right, so secondhand smoke as well as thirdhand smokes can certainly have some risk factors as well. As mentioned, it's the leading cause of preventable death in the United States and really mostly throughout the world as well. So if you want a healthy body and you or anybody else is currently using any form of tobacco products, one of the best things we can do is to work to quit. And I'll give you an example here. Just, no matter what, don't stop trying to quit. Some of you might be currently tobacco users, or you might be social tobacco users. Oh, I only smoke when I drink. Whatever it is, we need to try to work it out of our life. And about the social smoking, I can tell you, I had a lot of friends through the years that were social smokers. And before you knew it, they weren't just socially smoking. They needed it more and more frequent. But needless to say, we know the risks are there. Everybody in the world, for the most part, knows that tobacco is not healthful, and it can absolutely hurt us. And so let's take a look at this first bullet here. Smoking kills more people than HIV, drug use, alcohol use, motor vehicle injuries, and firearm-related incidents combined. So if you think of all those devastating things, smoking trumps that. And I will tell you this, in regards to tobacco, we've made a lot of progress. I don't know if you guys all remember, but remember how restaurants, you'd have smoking and non-smoking sections? How funny is that we literally would be like, non-smoking, please. And literally all this smoke is still gravitating onto your side of the restaurant. I still think it's comical. I was a young teenager when all that started happening, but needless to say, we've come a long way. Back in the 1950s, about 40 to 50% of people smoked. It was very common. It was kind of like eating today. People just socially, or people just kind of eat the Western diet. It's just the thing to do, whether it's unhealthy or not. That's what everybody's doing. And so tobacco is the same way. Nowadays, 20% or less in most states smoke. All right, so we've had 20, 30% improvements with tobacco use. So it's come from policies, it's come from promotions, come from just general awareness and lifestyle and behavior change. So we've made some good steps. By the way, tobacco use isn't just risky for, it's not just risky for cancer, it's very risky for even things like cardiovascular disease. All right, so it's important to understand that any form of tobacco is harmful. I've met a lot of guys through the years that say, oh, I just do cigars. And I'm like, all right, that's better. And in their head, they're thinking, I'll have a cigar once a week. And what they don't know is the amount of tobacco they might be inhaling or ingesting is about that of a pack of cigarettes. And it still has all the harmful chemicals and challenges as well. So needless to say, I know a lot of students think that there's less bad things out there. And yeah, you could maybe argue that, but bottom line, what we have to understand here is that the best thing is to avoid it altogether. Just like alcohol is a carcinogen, just like alcohol is, tobacco is a carcinogen as well. Hands down, it is a class 1 carcinogen, which means cancer-causing compound in any amount. So when we think about cancer, the second leading cause of death, it's important to understand that 2 of the 10 recommendations for the American Institute for Cancer Research are avoid tobacco and avoid or limit alcohol. So that's 2 of the 10. So when we think about cancer, it's absolutely devastating, and we want to look to help ourselves out. And then some of the risks, we know that. I don't need to go through all the different risks, but it essentially affects every cell in your body. And especially if one of the most enjoyable things is eating, it can absolutely even affect your taste of food. You have to have such highly potent drinks and food products to even taste it. So the good thing is, and one of the best kept secret in medicine, is that your body starts to heal itself. There's a lot of research that shows within 10 to 15 years of quitting smoking, your lungs will be fully recovered. It will be just like that of a non-smoker. So John Doe smoked for 20 years. He quit by the time he was 35. His lungs will be fully like that of Jane Doe who never smoked a day in our life. That's the power of our body. Our body's incredible, and it has the ability to heal us. All right, again, more and more risks. Again, think about it, to smoke or not to smoke, whether you do it socially or whether you do it more ongoing and frequent. We don't want our lungs looking like that. We don't want it being filled with tar and chemicals and all kinds of damage. Keep in mind, our lungs are so critical. And I was just speaking today to my students is that when we look at chronic diseases, a huge cluster is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, emphysema, and chronic bronchitis. And one of the primary and direct causes is tobacco inhalation and tobacco use. So we need to do ourselves some favor and really help us out. So treatment and cessation is critical when it comes to tobacco. I will not tell you, I might tell you with alcohol, avoid and or limit it, obviously, but I would never say limit tobacco use. I wouldn't say that to anybody. Anybody that I really wanted to support, I would say you need to quit it. All right, and you need to stop as soon as you can and as quickly as you can. And there's support out there. There's all kinds of programs, free and or for service programs that can absolutely help you kick the habit. And again, here's what's amazing is that every night when somebody goes to bed, so take a tobacco user, every night when they go to bed, let's say they sleep 8 hours, within an hour, your body starts healing the cells. Within 5 hours, even more. Within 8 hours, even more. Every morning when that person lights back up, boom, that damage starts right again. All right, and I want to transition that analogy and think about food the same way. Eating is the #1 cause of death and disability in the entire world, even above smoking, even above physical activity and all kinds of other areas. It is so critical. Think of it like this. I'm either helping myself or I'm hurting. So same thing with tobacco and alcohol. Are you helping yourself or hurting? And that's an opportunity that we all have to make, including myself. So lastly on this, I just want everybody to consider your current behaviors in areas. And I'm looking at myself here when I say this as well. How are we doing in these areas and how can we make progress? That's really what's important. You might say, well, I'm never going to stop drinking alcohol. Okay, well, that's certainly up to you, that you have free will and you have the ability to make that decision. What I would say is make the best decision for you that's going to help you be the best version of yourself. And just be conscious of what you're doing and take steps to make better decisions. I once had a student that said, I'm gonna work to quit drinking alcohol. And I said, that's great. And I said, so I have them all create a contract and a plan. And he goes through and his reward, believe it or not, his goal was to not drink all week. But then on Friday and Saturday, he got to drink twice as much because he had gone without it during the week. And I laughed in front of all my students when he had shared that example. And I said, let's talk about this for a minute. But needless to say, we have the ability to be better in this area. And I want everybody just to be conscious. If you don't use any toxic substances like drugs or alcohol or tobacco, then great. If you do use them, just consider how you can take steps to improve. So with that being said, I want to kind of wrap up that presentation, but does anybody have any questions or any stories or areas that you'd like to share on this topic? Again, I know it's a very exciting topic. I know you guys were very excited to hear all that great information. Anybody have any thoughts or shares there?
I don't know, Steve. I know for me, whenever I heard that there's no safe amount of alcohol, especially for women to have, that was it. I was done.
Yeah.
I wanted to share something about the alcohol. I had a friend whose father was like 85 years old, and he started going to AA and quit drinking after a whole lifetime of it.
Wow, 85.
So, yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, and it's never too late to achieve good health. I have a lot of folks that tell me, some that have even done challenges and have made big changes, that have said, I've made it this far. Got to die of something, you know, and that's not the right mindset we want to have. We absolutely want to say, it's not just about living long, but it's living well. And I mean, there's opportunity. And one of the mentors that I have, John Maxwell, his dad just died at 98. And they asked him, every year he would ask his dad and say, what do you think? And he'd say, John, I know my best years are ahead of me. And that's what I think. I think we all should think our best years are yet to come. So we want to maximize our opportunity to make those best decisions for us. So appreciate you sharing that, Charlotte. All right, so what I'll do is I'll wrap us up here, but I do want to say before I kind of have final thoughts and just kind of send us off for the week and some reminders for next week, our final week, I do want to say a special happy birthday to Ethel. Ethel, happy birthday. Ethel.
Hey, Ethel.
So let me take you off mute. So how are you feeling, Ethel? You having a good birthday? Oh, there you are.
There I am. Okay. I'm having a great birthday.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the happy birthday.
Well, we're very thankful that you decided to let us be part of your birthday. So we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
All
I'm
right.
enjoying it.
All right. Well, good. Well, thank you, Ethel. Really appreciate you being with us. So to wrap up, our topics today, again, aren't really the most exciting topics, but when we think about things like relationships, it's nice to really have a conversation